Hey everybody, welcome back to this special video all about the Eisner's nominees 2022. But first, please be sure to subscribe, comment down below who you think's gonna win, because I am so hyped. The Eisners to me are like the Oscars of comics. They mean so much when the nominees come out, and I just love being able to predict maybe possibly who won, or seeing all the comics I've read make the list. So I'm super excited. Now, the Eisners don't take place until San Diego Comic-Con, July 21st through the 24th, but I'm going to do my predictions anyways because I'm so hyped. So let's dive right into this, but please keep in mind, I do not read every single comic. I sure try to, trust me, but I've read a lot of these, and these are just some of my choices and my picks. I'm sure you guys have your own opinions, so let's go on into Best Short Story. Now, I've only read 2 of the short stories, so I'm going to acknowledge 2 of them. It's going to be Generations by Daniel Warren Johnson in Superman Red and Blue number 5. I didn't particularly enjoy most of Superman Red and Blue, but however, this Daniel Warren Johnson one definitely stood out to me. He is the writer and artist of this one, and it was just so emotional and very Boy Scout Superman, which I just truly love. Also, Tap 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 by Larry O'Neill and Jorge Ferrones in the Green Arrow 80th Anniversary Special. Now, this was my favorite anniversary special. They're like the big $10 books, and they have about like 8 to 10 stories in it. Most of them, I could find like 1 or 2 that I really enjoyed. I could say I thoroughly enjoyed about 6 of these, including the Tap Tap Tap. So, that one really stood out to me. It was really cool, really fun, Green Arrow, and I'm not even that big of a fan of Green Arrow, so it really made me enjoy and like the character. So I hope either one of those wins. Now, for Best Single Issue / One Shot, I've read most of these, excluding Wolven Daughter by Ver. Unfortunately, I've never gotten a chance to read that one, but it does sound like an interesting take. If you've gotten a chance to read it, hopefully, maybe let me know in the comments what it's like. So, Marvel Voices Identity number 1 is nominated for Best One Shot, and to me, although it is a well-written comic book, and I do believe we should have diversity included in our comics, I necessarily didn't find anything that expanded the lore of the Marvel Universe or something that really stood out to me. It is just a kind of just comic. So to me, I need something that like stands out and like wows me in order to win. Mouse Guard, on the other hand, Mouse Guard, I always know what I'm getting when I'm getting a Mouse Guard. It is going to be a fantasy, whimsical adventure with the mouse, and David Peterson's art is always going to be super whimsical and dreamy and gorgeous, and that's just what I got with this Mouse Guard book. I thought it was a really fun adventure, and I think it's a really cool issue. Wonder Woman Historia, The Amazons. Now, this book took me by surprise. I was waiting for this book, and I was really excited for this book. And when I opened it, I was so in awe, not by just the writing, but by the art as well. It is so Greek inspired, and every panel has just immense amount of details and characterization in this comic. It is just a really, really cool comic, and I'm glad DC Black Label's really gained some recognition. Last but not least, this is who I think the true winner is. I think Nightwing 87 is going to take the win. Now, not only is Nightwing nominated for 5 Eisners this year, but Nightwing allows DC to take the top spot for number of nominees this year. Most of the time, Image usually crushes it, but DC is in the lead, which is outstanding and really cool. I mean, having quality comics from DC come out is really something special. So Nightwing 87 was no particular one. It was like a really, really big issue. So this issue, if you were to cut it out and lay it panel by panel, you could technically make a full image of this entire comic going through one panel. I think that is so cool and unique. This comic sold out at my store, and everybody was in awe by the art of it. I just think it was such a unique experience for people to read, and I do believe people are going to remember this throughout. So, my choice for Best Single Issue is Nightwing 87. Now for Best Continuing Series, it's going to be a little tougher for me because I have loved all these comics for a very, very long time. So, Bitterroot by David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Greene. I have been with Bitterroot since the very beginning, and this book is so inspiring. It not only has like this horror monster hunting vibe to it, but it also includes family, political, race, all of this combined into one, such a naturally, beautifully told story. And it really just seems like this big family reunion at times. It just so happens they all hunt down monsters as well. So for me, Bitterroot is such a killer book, and it really belongs in this Best Continuing Series. Department of Truth by James Tynion and Martin Simmons. One of my favorite comics. Actually, all of these comics have made my top 10 at some point or another. So Department of Truth is just a really cool concept to me. It is all about conspiracy theories and how we as a society are able to embrace them and really have these crazy moments and monsters become reality, which is incredible. We also have Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. Immortal Hulk's ending was just phenomenal, and it was just a big, explosive end, and it just really was a fun ride. Immortal Hulk was definitely one of the best Hulk runs I've ever read, so in comparison, I compare every Hulk story to Immortal Hulk now, so I just find it that it makes it, you know, best continuing series. I mean, it just shows how much people really enjoyed this comic. Also, Nightwing by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. I mean, Nightwing has just been flying off the shelves. It not only gets women into comics by kind of setting like a thirst trap in a way, but also getting the guys into comics because it's still like a Batman title. It's just so different from Batman. You know, Nightwing is very different, and it's lighthearted and still has like that connection with Batgirl and the dog. So cute. So Nightwing's been killing it. And last but not least, Something's Killing the Children by James Tynion and Werther Dell'Ora. To me, Something's Killing the Children has always been fantastic. I think it is a great comic. However, I am a little upset that James Tynion's nominated for Department of Truth and Something's Killing the Children. I wish Something's Killing the Children was replaced by something else. Not gonna lie. So Something's Killing the Children for me has not been the best it's ever been, in my opinion. I do think the last story arc kind of drifted away from Something's Killing the Children, having young Erica. It did give us more answers, but it just wasn't enough for me. I felt myself a little bored at times, which is crazy to say from Something's Killing the Children because you're always like, wow. I think the newest issues, though, have really picked up in pace because it's like a brand new arc with the older Erica, and we're starting to get more and more devolved into this world. So personally for me, I eliminate Something's Killing the Children because I think Department of Truth is his better title. But for the win for Best Continuing Series, I really hope Bitterroot takes it this year because I think Bitterroot totally deserves it. Not a lot of people know about this comic, so if it does win, it gives it that extra oomph for people to start reading. So really, really hope that happens. Now for Best Limited Series, another really tough one for me, Beta Ray Bill, Agent Argent Star by Daniel Warren Johnson. He absolutely crushed this. This is a story solely about Beta Ray Bill and about his troubles and how he has a hard time not being able to turn back in his human form and he's stuck as a horse form. Now, this story I thought was just going to be an action-packed blockbuster, but it really dives into that emotional feel that you get for Beta Ray, and it is just, wow, it made me cry. I'm kind of tearing up right now. But it was just a really great story with incredible art. So I'm really glad he got the acknowledgement for that. The Good Asian, a really great crime noir. It is just a really fun storyline where you're trying to solve the murder, and it, interestingly enough, piqued quite a few people's interest on why this character is like in this noir era. He's got this trench coat and this jacket, and you know, he's very Sherlock Holmesy, and I like liked that aspect to it, so I do praise the good Asian. Hocus Pocus by Richard Wiseman. I'm not familiar with this, but if anybody's seen my Hocus Pocus shirt, I'm a huge Hocus Pocus fan, and this is the Hocus Pocus that, like, we all know and love. I need to check out this comic because I need to see what that's about. The Many Deaths of Lila Starr by Ram V and Felipe Andrade. Now, this book in particular really caught me by surprise last year. I thought this book was phenomenal done. It is an easy seller for me just because of how different and unique the idea of having a Hindi god, essentially the god of death, lose her job and now is forced to be unemployed. I mean, it's just so interesting and unique. So that book really takes the cake for me. Stray Dogs by Tony Flax and Trish Foster. I mean, wow, did Stray Dogs take the world by storm when it came out? It was incredibly popular. It has this such a unique, cutesy feel, but it's so dark and grimace, and it's just so unique in a way. I just absolutely love Stray Dogs. You never saw where it was going to lead to, and you were always so nervous and scared. I thought it was absolutely a solid blockbuster. And Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I think this is a really underrated Tom King storyline. I think Belize Everly, the artist, she crushes it. She draws Supergirl so gorgeous. And it just looks like this gorgeous filigree around all of the panels, and it really dives into the story about revenge and how revenge isn't necessarily the thing you want the most. It's redemption, and I think that's a really great idea and aspect to this. So, for the winner for Best Limited Series, I am torn between The Many Deaths of Lila Starr and Stray Dogs. I kind of want The Many Deaths of Lila Starr to win more just because I want it to have more publicity and more people to acknowledge it. But I'm going to go with Stray Dogs as my winner for this because I think Stray Dogs stole the show last year and hopefully it gets that recognition. Now, as for Best New Series, really tough one again for me because I really enjoyed all of these. So we have The Human Target by Tom King and Greg Smallwood. This is one of my favorite Tom Kings since Mr. Miracle. I think Tom King has kind of, he's either a hit or miss for me, but nonetheless, it's never been bad. It's always still good, but this one in particular has just sucked me into the story. Greg Smallwood's art on this is incredible, and it's a whodunit, and I just mean the traditional Justice League International feel to it all and everything just really gives me such a great feeling when I read it, and I really, really enjoy that. The Nice House on the Lake by James Tynion and Avalar Martinez Bueno. Now, this book, I think, is incredible. I am so happy DC allowed this. It doesn't even feel like a DC book at all. It's all about aliens and dark and scary, and it is incredible. It is a post-apocalyptic world where all of these people are trapped inside a house while the world is dying outside around them, and they all were brought here by one man, one friend, and it all unravels into this crazy mystery. I have no idea how this is going to end, but frankly, I think James Tynion kills it on his more independent titles. Not All Robots by Mark Russell and Mike Data Jr. This is an AWA book that I absolutely fell in love with over time. I think it is a super unique concept. It has an incredible satire about, robots coming and taking over the world and just all about like the Cold War and things like that. So if you haven't gotten a chance to get to know that storyline, highly recommend it. I think it's a really interesting story, and Mike Data's art is always so nice. I love his art. So, Radiant Black by Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. Now, Radiant Black, I say every time to people, if you grew up with Power Rangers and you're like the adult now and you're like, I still really like Power Rangers, but I don't really like the new stuff, you want to read Radiant Black in its universe because this is Power Rangers grown up. Like, he gets it. Kyle Higgins understands. And Radiant Black is nothing short of it. It is crazy good. The characters are so cool. You immerse into this world. It's so action-packed. You fall in love with the heroes. Are they heroes? It's just, It's a lot, and I just absolutely love that universe. And last but not least is Ultra Mega by James Harren. Now, this book, it takes inspiration from kaijus like Godzilla and Ultraman, but embraces it as its own thing, and I really enjoyed that. I think it's the perfect amount of gore with monsters, character development, everything, and it's just a really nice thick book, and you feel satisfied once you read it. Like, it is just a really cool story. So who I would choose as the winner would have to be The Human Target by Tom King and Greg Smallwood. I am so excited every time I see that comic coming out, and frankly, I just think it's like one of a kind. I think it's a really cool whodunit storyline, and frankly, I'm a sucker for those, so really, really happy about that. Now, for Best U.S. Edition of International Material, Asia. This is like the manga section, and I read quite a bit of manga because it has been very popular in the last couple years, so I do want to be able to sell these, and I want to know the culture and the base of everything. So Chainsaw Man's nominated. Chainsaw Man's been my favorite since it first came out. It follows a guy named Denji who turns into a devil that is totally surrounded by chainsaws and is forced to kill these monsters pretty much to survive. And it is just a gory, violent, sexy manga, and it's really interesting. I do think this is going to be the next, like, My Hero and Dragon Ball. The anime comes out later this year, but it is hot. Kaiju number 8. This is another really interesting take on kaiju monsters, particularly the main character turns into a kaiju monster and kind of helps fight and save the universe, so really, really cool. Love Sickness by Junji Ito. Now, Junji Ito, I think, is an incredible horror writer / artist. I think Love Sickness in particular was one of the best, and I think he did a incredible job on this book. I also love that it comes in this beautifully done hardcover, so really, really cool. I've never heard of Robo Sapiens, Tales of Tomorrow. It's a 7 Seas, the only one not Viz Media nominated, which is crazy. But yeah, maybe I'm gonna look into that now that it's nominated. Spy X Family. I have not read this one, but I have been told by so many people to read this. I've been told that the main little girl with the pink hair is absolutely incredible. I do want to get the chance to read this sometime soon. Man, Spy X Family sells like hotcakes. It sells so much and so well. So I definitely am taking that into consideration. And last but not least, Zom 100, The Bucket List of the Dead. Like I said, a really cool survival zombie apocalypse story. But the thing that I think is going to win is between Chainsaw Man and Spy X Family. Now, I think Spy X Family attends to a much more broader universe, more appeal, whereas like Chainsaw Man, you have to be like 16 plus. So I'm going to go with Spy X Family for the win on this one, although I absolutely love Chainsaw Man. Now, for Best Writer, I am completely torn on this. There is so many good ones. So yeah, we got Ed Brubaker, who I feel like he's just nominated every single year. He has to, right? I mean, he's like the godfather of this all. I feel like he's just an incredible writer. He knows how to write well, and he's been killing it on his Reckless books. So unfortunately, though, I feel like he has won a little bit too much. I'm gonna try and pick somebody else. We have Kelly Sue Donnick, who did Wonder Woman Historia, the Amazons, and I think that book is really, really great. I think she has taken inspirations from the Greek and, America and like all this stuff and kind of really wrapped it into one book, and I think that was a really fun issue. I just wish she would have done a little bit more this past year. I can't really think of too many things she did besides that, so kind of a little underwhelmed. Felipe Meleo, he did Ballad for Sophie, and unfortunately I'm not too familiar with that book. So if it is good, somebody let me know in the comments. Let me know what it's about, because I'm willing to check it out. We have James Tynion, who won last year. I mean, he's done gobs and gobs of stories this past year. Something's Killing the Children, Department of Truth, Nice House on the Lake, Wind, Batman, Joker, the list goes on. And then we have Ram V, who is really an up-and-coming star in my opinion. I think he is incredibly well done. I'm so happy he is nominated. So I think my pick for Ram V is the winner, and this is why I'm saying this. I think Ram V has a talent for him. Not only is his independent work just phenomenal, but he knows how to take already established characters from DC and Marvel Universe and really makes them shine. I think his Swamp Thing is so good, and I think his Carnage is a really fun take as well. I feel like he has like that perfect balance of a writer, and that's why I'm choosing him. Otherwise, if James Tynion only did independents, I'd probably lean more towards him. However, he's been a really big DC guy, especially this past year. He's done Batman, he's done Joker, and unfortunately, those comics to me, they kind of feel like they're just like the back burner for him. Like, they're just like he's forced to do it for a paycheck, and I want him to, like, you know, really get involved and really get excited about that character. Especially, I mean, like, he was on Batman. Like, who else is super excited to be on Batman? Like, everyone. So, I was just a little underwhelmed by his DC work this year. So, I'm going for Ram V. Not saying James Tynion in any way is bad. Obviously, I love his work. Now, for Best Writer Artist, I only, unfortunately, know two of them, Junji Ito and Daniel Warren Johnson. I think both of them are so incredible. I think Daniel Warren Johnson has a really his own unique aesthetic appeal. I really love his Murder Falcon, but that's not what he's nominated for, unfortunately. He's nominated for Beta Ray Bill and Superman Red and Blue. I love Beta Ray Bill, but I'm gonna go for Junji Ito this time, just because I think Junji Ito's stories that came out this year really impacted me a little bit more, so I really hope he wins. Now, for Best Penciler Inker, this one is a tough one. Again, I absolutely love all of these artists, and I do feel like every single one of these artists has brought something to the table this past year that has made comics evolve, which I think is incredibly important. So, Felipe Andrade, he does the Mini Delilah Star, and to me, he has like this really simple, fine line aesthetic to him, but it worked perfectly for that book. I think it blended incredibly well, and it allowed the story to breathe. Phil Jimenez, who did Wonder Woman Historia, the Amazons, I think his amounts of detail in each panel really caught my attention. The fact that it almost took me an hour to read this book just because of the art is something else. Like, this book was just absolutely mind-blowing, and I'm really happy about that. Bruno Redondo for Nightwing. I think he has brought in this really cool pop art aesthetic where he adds the circles to a classic modern style of this pop art. It gives it like that three-dimensional feel, and I could tell other artists have really embraced that and saw that what he's doing. Even kind of J. Scott Campbell's newer covers like the Thor and the Hulk, they resemble that in a way as well. So I think he's brought something really popular to the table, especially for comics nowadays. Asad Ribic, who does Eternals. Now, I think Asad's art is just incredible. I think the details, it's so muscular and so realistic and so very, the imagery of it is incredible. The way he draws Thanos and Icarus, it's just so cool. I mean, he did one of my favorite Thor runs, God of Thunder, so how could I not give credit to him for his amazing work on Eternals? And last but not least, the Godfather himself, P. Craig Russell. I mean, he does Norse mythology. He's done tons of work with Neil Gaiman, but I think his Norse mythology is so beautifully done. His art is like I'm reading a fairy tale. It is like I have one of those Grimm fairy tale, old school, like 1600 gold books, and I'm just seeing his incredible art. It is so unique to all of these artists are incredibly unique in their own ways, and I absolutely love it. But my winner for this year's Eisners has to go to Phil Jimenez. I think his work on Wonder Woman Historia was just outstanding. And yeah, I'm really happy that he's like back in action and people are seeing how great his art really is. Now we're talking best cover artist. Now this one is so hard in my opinion because covers really help sell comics. So we're starting off with Jen Bartel, who does an incredible job. She did Future State Immortal Wonder Woman. She's done Wonder Woman Black, White, and Gold. She does She-Hulk, and she just has a really unique digital, very female, girly style, which I really, really enjoy. It has really thick, bold outlines, and I just think they're gorgeous. We also have David Mack, who is a legend in the world of comics. He does Norse mythology covers, which are just incredibly painted. He's done tons of Marvel, and yeah, he's just really, really popular. We have Bruno Redondo, who has done all the Nightwing covers. Unfortunately, though, for me, I've been liking the variant covers for Nightwing just a little bit more. I think Hamal Campbell, my bad. Hamal Campbell is like just so amazing. He makes like such dynamic covers for Nightwing, so I honestly really pick up those. And then we have the legendary Alex Ross, who I mean, like, gorgeous. I absolutely love Alex Ross. I think he is like the best there is, so really looking forward to seeing him be nominated again. Julian Todino Tedesco. Now this guy has been really picking up heat. I think he's really brought in a really creative aspect of negative space and using negative space with your images and with your covers, so I find that incredible. And then Yoshi Yoshitani, I hope I said that correct, did I Am Not Starfire, does the Blue Flame, Giga. It seems like a lot of vault covers, and I really like the vault covers. I think they're bright and popped, and they convince people to try and pick up their comics, which I think do an incredible job. But as the winner, I do have to hand it to the one and only Alex Ross. I think he absolutely smashed it this year with his Black Panther covers, his Captain America covers. All of that is just so good, so I honestly can't not vote Alex Ross. On to best coloring. Now, coloring, a lot of people kind of tend to overlook, or they kind of just assume the artist does it, but not necessarily the artist does it all the time. So that makes the coloring incredibly important. If it's a very exciting comic, you want bright colors. If it's a very scary comic, you want dark shadings and dark colors, warmer colors, and so it's very, very important. So Felipe Andrade and Ines Hermano for The Death of Lila Starr. I mean, hello, incredible colors. I think the colors are so good, and they're really important to the story because you're representing a religion, you're representing a different culture, and it's just really, really interesting to see their take. Terry Dodson, who does Adventure Man, love the coloring in this. The coloring is so thickly added, like it really feels like it kind of almost pops out of the page because it's just so gorgeous. Kay O'Neill, who does the Tea Dragon Tapestry, which is a really, really cool kids comic. I sell it here at my store, and the coloring is always just really cool. It does a lot of like warm summer colors, and then it depends on the storyline. Sometimes there's a spring one, and so it has a lot more brighter pastels, which I think is really necessary. Jacob Phillips, who does all the coloring for Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips's work, Reckless, and he also does That Texas Blood. Really, really like his colors. I think his colors have improved drastically over time, and I think they're really great. And last but not least, Matt Wilson, who does Undiscovered Country, Firepower, Eternals, Thor. The list goes on. He honestly does a ton of coloring. I've seen his name everywhere on my comics. So really, this one's kind of a tough one for me. But I am going to go with Felipe Andrade and Ines Hermano for The Many Deaths of Lila Starr, just because of how unique the coloring is to me, and it really just stands out with that book. So yeah. Now for best lettering. Now, I know lettering isn't really important to a lot of people, but for me, lettering is a really big part of the comic, especially the narration parts. The dialogue bubbles, not so much, but the narration really expands the story and allows the pictures and imagery to breathe. So, starting with that, we have Wes Abbott, who has done Future State, Nightwing, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman Black and Gold. He's done quite a bit of DC, but unfortunately, I'm just not too familiar with him, especially because, like, Clayton Cowles, he has done pretty much everything you read. He has done Batman, Catwoman, he's done all the X-Men, he's done Venom. He works really well with like Tom King and Donny Cates, all your really famous writers. So he just honestly goes hand in hand with that, and I think that's a really great aspect for him to have. There's also Crank with an exclamation point. I've noticed his work for a while now. Crank has really shown that he has evolved over time, especially because he does a lot of like independent works. He's done like Undiscovered Country and Jonah and the Unmissable Monsters, the Tea Tapestry Dragon. So he has a wide range from doing letterings from like children's books to like really adult books. So I find that incredibly cool and interesting. We also have Ed Dukeshire, who does a lot of boom books like Once and Future and Seven Secrets. I think his is pretty, not like lackluster, but it is pretty just basic, and it doesn't really stand out to me very much. And last but not least, we have Barry Windsor Smith, who I am not very familiar with. It looks like he does a lot of Fantagraphics book, like Monsters, and unfortunately, I'm just not too familiar. So, from the ones I am familiar with, the winner that I would like to predict, or I would like to win, is definitely going to be Crank. I have seen him grow from the very beginning, small-time letterer, to now just being this really expansive independent letterer, so I find that really great and cool. And last but not least, I just wanted to give a shout out for the best digital comic to Snow Angels by Jeff Lemire and Jock. This is the only Jeff Lemire nomination he has this year, sadly, so I just have to let it out and let everybody know about it. Snow Angels is also in print already, so if you get the chance, go to your local comic shop and pick it up. It is a great read. So those are all my Eisner nominations and predictions. There is a lot more, tons that I am not too familiar with, but you can check out the entire list at comiccon.org, and you can see when they're going to take place and all of that. Maybe even make your own predictions. Have a great day.